This is the show that explores the fascinating secret life of the world around us. Revealing surprising facts guaranteed to make you say, I didn't know that. Meet Richard Ambrose and Johnny Phillips. Two industrial scientists who don't mind getting their hands dirty when it comes to establishing the facts. Join them on their mission to explore the extraordinary behind the ordinary. In this edition, the London Underground's biggest secrets.
I've never seen anything like it.
And we'll race the tube against a...
This time on I Didn't Know That, it's all about the tube. No, Rich, no. The London Underground.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Take
okay.
it away.
Sorry. Watch what you're doing, will you?
The London Underground is one of the largest urban rail services in the world. Its passengers make nearly 1 billion journeys every year. Opening in 1863, it was the first underground system of its kind.
And it was a hit from the start. By 1880, the London Tube was carrying over 40 million passengers a year.
And surprisingly, for something that's called the Underground, 55% of today's network is actually above ground. But it's the tube-shaped tunnels that have made it famous, and their depth varies greatly. The oldest are just below street level, whereas newer sections are typically at least 20 metres below the surface.
Ventilation and the supply of clean air has always been an issue on the tube. And in the past, when locomotives were steam-powered, it was an even bigger problem.
The first solution was to have a number of strategically placed open sections of track. These provided fresh air for the tunnels and somewhere for the engines to let off steam.
If you're a Londoner, you might be wondering why you haven't spotted these open spaces above ground. Well, that's because some of them are very well hidden.
Like this one, for example. It might look like a rather smart house in a posh area of London, but in fact, it's just a facade. And the attention to detail's astonishing. The only thing that gives it away are those painted windows.
Come on, let's have a look around the back.
Yeah.
A quick look over the back wall reveals there's nothing behind that smart frontage. It's complete Hollywood.
I've never seen anything like it.
Cool. There's a train. So be warned, if you drive a taxi or deliver pizzas for a living and you get called to this address, they're having a laugh.
Concrete.
See?
When electric trains were introduced in 1890, they made a big difference to the Underground's air quality. As the trains didn't blow off steam, the engineers could take the tracks much deeper. During the Second World War, stations at the deepest levels saved thousands of lives when Londoners used them as shelters from German bombs.
Powering an electric rail system of this size takes an extraordinarily large amount of energy. The Underground is the biggest user of electricity in London and is amongst the top 10 consumers of electricity in the country.
The tube works using a 4-rail system. The train rides on these rails, whilst the other two provide the high-voltage power. But having highly charged rails does have its disadvantages, as they attract an awful lot of dust. If this dust isn't regularly removed, it can reduce the contact between the train wheels and track and the power rails. The job of removing the dust is that of the defluffer gangs, who spend their lives scrubbing the rails clean. The defluffing process is far from pleasant because the gangs have to remove human hair and skin blown in from the platforms.
This job's made even worse by the London Underground's own species of mosquito, which thrives in these hot, stuffy tunnels.
And they're not the only animals to make the most of what the Underground has to offer. Recently, pigeons have been spotted riding on the tops of tube trains. I kid you not. Pigeons are using tube trains to cross from one side of the city to the other. You could not make it up. Now fly. Have you got any idea where you are going? While Johnny's sorting the map out, have a look how they test sat-nav systems.
It'd be handy if they could come up with automatic drivers that listened as well.
It'd be handy if Johnny could hold the map up the right way.
Sat-navs, or satellite navigation units, are one of the fastest-selling in-car gadgets in the UK. Program in a destination and the voice, in 50 metres, turn left, tells you exactly how to get there. This is Intertech, where they test these units for durability. First up, a bit of shake, rattle and roll.
This test is intended to replicate the effect of 100 days road vehicle vibration. We can do this in just 10 days.
A clear pass. Next up, the drop test.
Here we're trying to replicate the type of sudden shock the equipment might receive if your car's suspension were to bottom out.
Another pass. Now for some shock treatment. We all build up static electricity in our bodies, which can short out the sat-nav when we touch it. This gun gives the unit a series of zaps to check it won't suffer a heart attack. It's a pass.
This is an EMC chamber, which stands for electromagnetic compatibility. It's designed so that no radio interference can get inside the chamber.
Electronic gadgets, from mobile phones to MP3 players, emit an electromagnetic signal, which, if strong enough, can interfere with other devices. This special aerial detects emissions across a wide range of radio frequencies and ensures the sat-nav doesn't give off anything that would affect other electronic units.
The blue line shows the maximum level of permissible electromagnetic interference, and as you can see, the grey trace here shows that it's operating well within those limits that we should give it a pass.
This high-tech gizmo is fit for the road, so the old-fashioned road map can continue collecting dust in the glove box.
Now it's time to look at an everyday object using an infrared camera. Hot things give off lots of infrared, while cold things give off less. And this camera can actually do what our eyes can't. It can see the variations in temperature. There are about 30 million fridges in the UK alone. What will the infrared camera reveal about this one?
You ready, Rich?
I'm ready.
Say what you see.
Black and very dark blue. Most of the fridge is at +4 degrees Celsius, but because heat rises, the top section is at double that.
Should we have a look at the freezer, see if there's any difference?
You can't see any definition in there at all. It's very cold. Well, that's a shock revelation. The freezer is cold. Inside, it's around -18 degrees Celsius, so it's no wonder that after just seconds, Johnny's fingers have halved in temperature. Another few minutes, and he'd officially have frostbite. Until 1929, fridges used toxic gases, including ammonia and sulfur dioxide as coolant. Unfortunately, several fatal accidents occurred. Today, fridges use refrigerant, a man-made chemical which absorbs heat. It's circulated by this compressor, which is the hottest part of the fridge. The refrigerant travels in the walls of the compartment, absorbing heat from the food. When it comes out at the back of the fridge, the liquid coolant is warm. As it travels down through these tubes, it cools down. The change from red to green represents a massive temperature drop. By the time it gets to the bottom, it's cool enough to pass inside the fridge again.
Still to come, what's quickest around London? A motorcycle? Or the London Underground? And is it really possible to crack a safe with a doctor's stethoscope? We're looking at one of the world's biggest underground train systems, the London Tube. It operates 600 trains 7 days a week. So what does it take to be a tube driver?
Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me loose on a real train, but we've got the next best thing.
This £1 million state-of-the-art simulator is normally used to train London Underground's finest. But today they're letting Johnny loose behind the wheel. Except, it isn't a wheel. His trainer is Matt Shelley.
Right, so just push this forward and I'll start
forward,
moving.
And the train will go.
And back to brake.
And back towards you to brake.
Right. Oh, here we go.
And as any tube driver will tell you, the secret to a smooth ride lies in the wrist action.
Are there speed limits?
There are, on the display in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see the train speed in the yellow.
OK.
The red hand, as we call it, towards the right-hand side.
Yeah.
That's your maximum speed.
Right.
And that will tell you when you need to slow down.
But obviously I want to be concentrating on the track, not looking at that.
Exactly.
That's quite tough.
Once you're up and running on a clear stretch of track, it's a bit of a doddle.
Lovely day.
On this simulator, it's possible to drive anywhere on the London Underground network under any weather conditions.
Look at that, the snow's settled. And what about trees and lightning and frogs and things?
We haven't got the lightning or the frogs yet.
Oh, right.
Certainly trees on the track we can do.
Trees are one thing, just don't mention the wrong type of leaves. Right, now all Johnny has to master is stopping.
Right, so
And there we go.
Brake.
In 400 metres,
Brake.
we need to be at 0.
OK. Just wait for that red hand
Pretty
to get
good.
closer and then do a bit more braking.
Pretty good.
To help the driver stop accurately, every station has a board at the end of the platform. The trick is to land in the green. Miss it and you're in trouble because these trains have no reverse. So, will Johnny make the grade?
Ooh. Oh, I think...
Not quite. A little bit more.
Sorry, that was a bit vigorous. Oh,
Yep.
Goodness me.
The system's telling us because you haven't stopped accurately enough,
Right.
you aren't allowed to open the doors.
Oh, no. So I've got a lot of irate passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, please mind the gap.
Still to come, tube versus bike. Which one's quicker? Stay tuned to find out.
Stitched up like a kipper. I knew I should have kept my mouth shut down the pub. Anyway, this whole scenario does pose a very interesting question. Is it really possible to crack a safe like this using just a stethoscope, as we've seen in so many movies?
With the safe firmly secured, it was time to bring in this man. Meet Jason Osborne, ace locksmith. He's been cracking up to 3 safes a week for the past 27 years, and he's never been defeated. He uses many different methods, including forced entry using a power drill with a special steel bit. He's even cracked a safe for the Queen at Buckingham Palace.
So, Jason, tell me about the Buckingham Palace job. You had to open a safe. What was it, jammed? Or
well, it was a vault where the locker jammed.
And what was in there? Crown jewels, don't tell me.
No, just loads of silver.
Really?
Yeah.
But Jason faces a very different challenge today. Cracking our safe with a doctor's stethoscope, something he's never tried before.
What are you actually listening for?
It's hard to explain, but you've basically got to line up 3 wheels, and then when the 3 cuts line up, an arm drops in that allows you to open it. But going by sound, you can tell whether or not you're on the wheels or not.
Right, let's see how you go.
All right.
And if you think the easy answer is to pick the whole thing up and do a runner, well, the cavities of the walls are filled with concrete. Even this little one weighs 350 kilos, about the weight of 4 men. This safe has over 1 million combinations. A computer-aided device could go through every possible combination, but it would take up to 36 hours. Jason didn't have a computer, just his skill. And so we could hear what he could hear, we wired up a microphone. Although Jason wouldn't reveal the precise method, he did say he was listening out for a particular pattern of clicks which give a clue to the combination of the lock. Finally, after 2.5 hours...
I think we're nearly there. In fact, yep.
Are you serious?
Yep, I've done it.
No. Unbelievable. That's brilliant. That's one movie myth that turns out not to be a myth at all. You can open a safe using a stethoscope.
this warehouse in Liverpool, a team of craftspeople turn junk into art. They're recycling old bottles and transforming them into beautiful stained glass. Old window panes and empty glass bottles are brought here by environmentally friendly electric lorries. The drinks bottles are left to soak overnight in water and detergent before having the sticky labels removed. Once a bottle is clean, a blade scores a line around its neck. It's then stood in 7 centimetres of cold water, while boiling water is poured into it. The rapid heating makes the glass bottom break off. The neck of the bottle is gently tapped until it falls away, and the body is cut in half and placed in the kiln. The glass sits in here overnight, where the temperature gets as high as 766 degrees Celsius. The glass then melts into flat pieces, and these are left to cool. Meanwhile, the windows have their rubber edges removed, and the double-glazed panes are separated. This clear glass is scored into shapes which will eventually form parts of the stained glass window. The glass derived from the drinks bottles is also hand-cut. It'll provide the colour in the windows. The artist creates numerous decorative pieces from the recycled glass, including vases and beautiful bowls, and of course the windows. So next time you look through a pane of glass, remember, you could be looking through last night's empties. Cheers. We're back at the London Underground, where 150,000 passengers enter every hour. It's famous for its high-class buskers, and it even has its own police force.
But the thing that the London Underground is most famous for, the world over, is its map. It's a 20th century design masterpiece.
It was devised in the 1930s by Harry Beck, who was paid the princely sum of £5.50 for the original artwork. Even though he tinkered with it throughout his life, and the concept was taken up by underground systems in New York, Singapore and Sydney, the only official thanks he ever got was a tiny plaque at Finchley Station. It's a crying shame.
Now, the genius of Beck's map is that it doesn't attempt to show the true geographical relationship between the stations. Now, that sounds strange for a map, but it does make it much simpler and easier to read.
This is a geographically correct map, which was used by London Underground in the 1920s. But, as you can see, compared to Beck's masterpiece, it's a nightmare to follow.
However, be warned, although it's brilliant, this lack of geographical relationship can catch you out. For example, if you were travelling from St Paul's to, say, Mansion House, the logical route on the map would be this.
From St Paul's, you'd pick up the Central line heading east to Bank. At Bank, you'd walk across to Monument, where you'd catch the Circle or District line heading west to Cannon Street, and then on to Mansion House.
So after a 15-minute tube journey and a change, you arrive here, on the other side of St Paul's.
By foot, the same journey would have taken a mere 2 minutes. But despite such quirks of the map, it's been in continual service for 70 years and gets ever bigger as the network grows. The latest extension is the Jubilee line, and it's the most expensive railway ever built.
It cost over £3.5 billion. That's £165 million for every single kilometre. And its palatial stations are a far cry from the originals, built at Paddington and Farringdon Street over 140 years ago.
Of course, the world's moved on since 1863. Back then, the roads were full of horses and carriages, not buses and cars. So is the tube still the quickest way to cross London?
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to pit the tube against the ultimate traffic jam-busting form of transport, the high-performance limo bike.
And while Johnny's riding pillion, I'm going to be riding on the tube, which is going to be so much warmer. Now, we're starting at London Bridge. We're going to end up at the Ritz. Last person buys the tea and cakes.
Good luck.
I'll be waiting!
The route we've chosen is a tough one. It's only 6 kilometres long, but it's through some of the capital's most congested streets.
Take it away, Reece.
And while While Johnny's burning rubber, Rich gets off to a shaky start.
I've only got I've got a quid. I've got a quid. Has anyone got some money? Oh. Cheers. Right. Whoa. Great. OK, that's good, that's good, that's good. Right.
As Richard dashes for the train, Johnny's already well on his way to finishing his first kilometre. 5 more to go.
They're going to think I'm a doctor being rushed to some emergency, aren't they, in this white coat?
2 minutes, oh, come on.
Finally, after an agonising wait, Richard makes it onto the tube.
Excellent, we're off. Now, after the delays of getting a ticket and waiting for the train, we should be gaining on Johnny, who hopefully is stuck in traffic.
But above ground, Johnny is flying.
It's certainly quite hairy, actually.
At the halfway point, Johnny is still in the lead, but the tube's catching fast. In town, the bike's top speed is limited by law to just 50 kilometres per hour, where the tube can top more than 80 between stops, and its route is much more direct.
Right, just 2 more stops. It's going to be tight.
Richard doesn't know it yet, but with just a couple of kilometres to go, he's taken the lead.
Ah, so it's missed. One more stop.
And now it's Johnny's turn to try and catch up. While the bike's great for whipping through the traffic, it can't beat the lights.
Come on! Oh, no, I don't believe it!
The next station is Green Park. Change for the Piccadilly and
Music to my
Victoria
ears.
lines.
It's Green Park. Come on, guys, quick, smart, we're off.
With the station located just a few hundred metres from the Ritz and Johnny stuck in traffic, Richard should have it in the bag. But then, disaster strikes.
Excuse me, mate. Can I get through, please?
Hey, that's perfect.
Cheers, thanks.
So, is the tube still the fastest way to get across London? Well, not always.
Hello!
How long have you been here?
Couple of minutes.
So?
Yes, easy.
Well done. Cream tea's on me, come on.
So, Johnny won, but the bike cost around £30. The tube, just 4.
I want tea and a big donut.
Join Richard and Johnny next time for more fascinating facts and revelations.
When am I seeing this tune?
Can you turn the snow off? I don't want snow in the tunnel.
Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, and cut there.